I think the year before I had made 150,000. Last year was closer to 70. I think the ultimate misconception is that everybody who's in it and everyone who's even made something is incredibly wealthy.
Nick Geisler is a screenwriter whose career has spanned everything from viral WikiHow articles to writing for BUNK'D, Disney Channel's longest-running series. Like many creatives, Nick's journey hasn't been a straight line. It's filled with side hustles, big wins, canceled gigs, and the tension between creative fulfillment and financial uncertainty.
The amount of times I will write a full movie and give it to somebody and have months worth of notes before they even say, yes, I'm going to pay you for it. The sense of delusion's still there. My dream, the reason I did all of it was to see a feature film all the way through to the end. Is taking a 9-to-5 job going to mean I can't write the next great movie or the next great short story I want to write?
How has your salary, how have you been able to make it work, especially with the big swings from year to year?
On the macro level, it's a huge problem. The caveat I'll put into this is...
Hi, Nick. Welcome to the pod.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Today, we'll be talking about the balance between creative fulfillment and financial fulfillment.
Great.
And kind of how that looks.
Great. And if you figure that out also, please tell me. I'm also here to listen.
We'll see if we can figure it out in the next hour.
All right. No, that'll do it. That'll do it.
But thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to So How Much Do You Make? And to kick things off, how much do you make?
I wish that was an easier question to answer. It fluctuates wildly from year to year. I will say, for reasons we can get into, last year in Los Angeles, in the film industry, in the creative industry at large, was really tough. You never love it when your accountant's like, did you miss a couple? Did you not send me a few things?
Yeah.
So last year was very tough. In terms of actual numbers, I think the year before I had made 150,000. Last year was closer to 70.
Got it.
The year before that was, I think, closer to 120, and the year before that was 60. So much depends on the external environment, and that's just been really wild right now.
A lot of people who are just tuning in to their favorite show are not really thinking about what's going on behind the scenes. But in the last couple of years with the writer's strike, I think the curtain's being lifted a little.
Yeah.
But what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions of working in LA as a screenwriter?
Yeah. I think the ultimate misconception is that everybody who's in it and everyone who's even made something is incredibly wealthy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And a big one is the numbers are really hard to parse when you're not in the industry. I get paid very well on a TV show. My weekly rate on BUNK'D, and I was the lowest level staff writer there when I started. Those minimum rates start at like $5,000 a week.
Oh, wow.
And they get up to 6 or 7 depending on contract length and time again. When you write an episode, if you get credit for the episode on a cable channel, you get a script fee, and that's another $16,000. When that episode airs, you get residuals, and that's very different for everybody, and there's a whole calculus from streaming to cable to how many times it airs. But I personally have made about $60,000 in residuals in the past 3.5 years.
Okay.
A little less than that, closer to 3 years. So that adds up to a lot of money. What is hard to reconcile is that TV show may only work for 20 weeks out of the year. And you might only get one show every year or every 2 years. So that lot of money is designed to carry writers through the lean times. And it's designed to also, in my opinion, incentivize the essential free work. New TV shows are generally not just paid for out of thin air. You've got writers who sit for no pay and stare at their computers and develop ideas and pitch ideas and get notes and build on those notes and try and sell those notes and make pitch materials. And so, in the same way that I think you look at how hard it is to become an athlete, to make it to the NFL and get paid, well, only 1% of those 99 of those 100% of athletes ever make it there. And there's a lot of free work to get up to that point. I'm not saying that's right or wrong or it should be paid, but there is a huge payday in Hollywood, but it's very gold rush mentality. And if you want to have a career, you need to know, okay, this payday might look amazing. It's not amazing when it's 2 years of living expenses. It's just a normal wage that you have to make happen.
Right.
And I think the writer strikes and the SAG-AFTRA strikes did a good job starting to say that. But I think the free work is something that I think would shock people a lot. The amount of times I will write a full movie and give it to somebody and have months worth of notes before they even say, yes, I'm going to pay you for it. And every person has to find their balance. I know writers who refuse to do it say, great, you can buy it and I'll do any note you want. And I have writers who say, well, if this ups the chance of it getting made, let's take some notes. Let's do some changes. All of that free work, I think some people have an idea, oh, you got to do auditions, you got to like write ideas. But I think the scale of it is a lot more massive than people really understand.
I bet, because I didn't really know how much free labor goes into this, but it makes sense as you're talking about it, especially without those budgets for a new production or something like that. But going back to our initial question, and you bringing up LA is not a cheap city by any means, but it's where you have to be if you want to work in the industry.
Yeah.
How has your salary, how have you been able to make it work, especially with the big swings from year to year?
Yeah. On the macro level, it's a huge problem. And LA is starting to lose a lot of film business because people just can't afford it and productions can't afford it. Briefly, before the personal side, like I have my own production company. And so I work on short films and feature films and feature film budgeting. The exact same movie to shoot in Los Angeles is probably 30, if not 50% more expensive than shooting the exact same script in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of reasons for that, but gas, food, and lodging at the end of the day is just a lot cheaper. And allows everything to be cheaper. And that's a problem that Los Angeles is waking up to. Personally, it's a lot of side hustles. It's a lot of careful budgeting. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it was a lot of skipping out on things in my 20s in particular that would have been a blast. Trips with friends, trying out restaurants, a lot of concerts, which LA has great concerts, but they're not cheap tickets. So you do have to make some sacrifices if you don't have some sort of backer or financial standing before you come in. I've also done a lot of weird jobs. I've sold memberships to Greenpeace. I've been the guy on the street being like, hey, do you like tigers?
Yep.
Which is the hardest job I've ever had, ever, by a long shot.
I can imagine. Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's made me a better salesperson. You learn some things. I still, when times are really low, I bartend with friends. I have friends who run bartending services, and I'll jump in and I'll do wait staff and do catering. The TV show Party Down, for anyone who has or hasn't watched it, it's more of a documentary than a comedy. It really is how all of LA works, especially for up and comers. And then more importantly, I think, and something I tell all the younger writers who I talk to and kind of want advice, I've just tried to pick up every related skill I can get. I can run a camera, I can set up lights, I can edit, and I edited for a very long time. The first job I ever had, I laid linoleum for a KFC commercial.
Oh, wow.
In the art department. Some of the resumes that got me into those jobs, they might have been fluffed a little bit, but as long as you get there and you show up on time and you smile and you get hired back.
Did you have a WikiHow of how to lay linoleum?
I didn't write it, but I did check it the minute I got there. And that was a great job. I wrote like 1,000 how-to articles, I think. 3 a day. So anybody who was looking them up, it was me.
I've read your articles, I bet.
All right,
I bet.
I hope they helped.
They did. They got me here. So here we are.
All right, thank you. Yeah. How to host a podcast. It was a little before my time, but I think I probably tipped into that somewhere.
I WikiHow'd pretty much every question I had for a long time.
It was a great website.
Oh, yeah. Because it was both the text and the visual.
I know.
So it was really helpful.
And the visuals were, even when they weren't good, they were great. It was a great.
They were the best part.
Yeah.
They were the best part.
The visual team was amazing because I worked with them all the time, obviously. And they were non-English speaking. And so they would get translated versions. And so we'd have to talk through a translator to get the images right. And I wish I had an exact story, but sometimes the translator would really screw up the words it said, and the image would be just nowhere near what you wanted. And people always joke, like, why is it so bad? It's like, well, real human beings are doing this, but through a language barrier that we didn't always get right. And so I had to like check those. And we got in trouble with a couple of them in terms of the internet finding something very funny, having to do it. But again, it was a great job for me because I wrote every day. I
Mm-hmm.
got paid to write every day. I wrote for a variety of audiences. The first article I ever wrote was How to Kiss Your Boyfriend. And they're like, I want you to think like a middle school girl and like getting ahead of who's reading this and
Uh-huh.
who's clicking on this. And then later on, you write something like incredibly serious articles, like dealing with your friend's mental health issues, and like, okay, you need to step into like a trusted advisor role, or how to cook Indian food.
What is the craziest WikiHow article you've ever written or read or both?
The weirdest article I've ever written, I got a call from my boss, freaking out. And he's like, we just got picked up in Vice. I'm like, for a good reason? He's like, no, not a good reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't call you. Apparently someone, because WikiHow is open, like
Yeah.
anyone can edit it.
Yeah.
My job was high search rank articles with really low quality ratings would be put into a giant spreadsheet, and I just picked the ones that I needed to fix.
Right.
So I was fixing these. He's like, yeah, so we apparently have an article that's how to become a porn star. It's doing really terrible. Vice made a huge article making fun of it, and it got picked up by a bunch of other places. Like, I need you to rewrite how to be a porn star, like, really quickly.
Oh my gosh.
And he literally says, he's like, I will send your girlfriend an email telling her it's for research if you need me to. I'm like, honestly, I might take you up on that because search history is about to get a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But I think that as a young writer was unbelievably lucky for me. Just like repetition, different audiences, constant feedback, whether from trolls on the internet or a boss telling me what was good and bad. It just makes you better. And it allowed me to move to LA with a steady paycheck in my pocket because I did it mostly from home. Even before COVID, it was almost all work from home. And it let me, okay, I can write 3 articles a day first thing in the morning, and then I can go try and make a film with my friends in the afternoon, or I can go meet some people. For a while, I was at a Nick Jr. show as an assistant. It paid nothing. But I'd write WikiHow from 5 until 8 in the morning when set would start. And then I'd work on set, and then I'd write WikiHow during lunch. And then I'd go back. And between the two of those things, I was able to like carve out a little niche for myself and give myself time. I have bigger thoughts and probably too much about how sad I am that those jobs are being lost now. Like those young writer jobs are the ones that are starting to get automated away. And I'm not gonna pretend WikiHow was, War and Peace. It wasn't like I wrote great things. But I think there's a value to being paid those jobs to develop the skills to write something a little more complex down the line.
I would love to hear more about that. Like, what is happening in the industry right now with these younger writers or some of these jobs?
Yeah, I mean, it's no guess now that all those how-to articles no one's using WikiHow. They're going to ChatGPT or Claude, and they're pulling from the internet. Like, they're pulling from WikiHow. You can see their sources, and that's public knowledge.
Right.
We don't have to get into the copyright of it all. But the optimistic side of me is always the like, look, this is going to unlock a new version of productivity in art. And I think I have this more optimistic version. It's like, okay, the writers coming up on this are going to be able to develop wild projects beyond our imagination. Where I get a little worried is being an assistant editor of a film, which is syncing footage and pulling clips. That's something that already AI companies are saying, we're going to cut down time for the big editors. The big editors can get pre-cut early rounds and pre-synced. And then they're going to be able to edit the artist version of the editing, the artist version of the short film. I think that's true, but I learned how to be an editor by being an assistant editor. I learned what footage was wanted. I learned what the footage was doing, and I learned how to hunt down shots that maybe don't seem like the right shot to add to something. As WikiHow, I learned how to write a sentence. And now I'm writing corporate compensation articles about how compensation committees across the S&P 500 are paying and incentivizing executives and talent. I learned how to do that because I learned how to research, how to talk to people at that level, how to break down very complex issues into very step-by-step things, because I wrote How to Make Tikka Masala. I don't think the line is that far to go to get from one to the other. I think the mistake that we're making in our conversation a lot around AI and art is that, oh, no, it's never going to take away the jobs from real artists. But I think that's forgetting that real artists don't just spring out of nowhere fully formed. Andy Warhol wrote made marketing sketches and doodles for years in Pittsburgh. Joan Didion was writing copy for Vogue, like nothing copy for Vogue. All of these people we consider these great artists, like started doing the menial work that we're so excited to automate.
Well, to your point, it's worth the conversation, right? And like that's what gets missed a lot of times. But that's 2025. I want to go back to what made you want to be a screenwriter, and then what was that path like to even get to LA?
Yeah. I think the most obvious answer and the real one is I always love movies. My dad and my mom are big storytellers. I used to beg for like literally tell me a story before bed. And I'd get mad when the voices weren't like when they were exhausted. Like they were way too tired to like do 6 voices. And my dad had this whole running character arc called Willie the Worm, and there's all this great story. So I kind of grew up, I think, just really valuing that and loving that. And loving going to the movies with my dad, loving going to independent theaters. When we moved somewhere finally that actually had one and expanded what I knew a movie could be. And I just loved to read, and I bounced around a lot. I wanted to be a lot of things like most kids. But I think I had teachers who, wisely or not, really, I got lucky that validated me as a writer, which I think is essential. You have to have somebody, even outside of your family, who just says, I kind of see something and go pursue it, and challenged me. The best teacher I ever had, Andy Husky. I don't know if she'll make the shout out, but she's the best. She gave me a paperback once. I think it was creative writing or something. And she gave me, I think, a C. And she said, this wouldn't be a C for a lot of your classmates, but I know you're better than this. And you were kind of lazy. And I needed that. I desperately need to hear it. She was right. And then my senior year of college, I was doing creative writing. I was working on fiction. I was writing a lot of prose. And I don't quite know what got in me, but we had some cameras. We didn't have a film program. We had a video art program. And I'd taken that class 3 or 4 times because it was the only access to cameras. And that professor's like, we're getting a bunch of cinema quality lights. Like, they're not for a class until next year. If you want them for the semester to just go make something, we'll sign you up for an independent study. So I said, of course. And I got a professor to agree to kind of sign off on it. So I made a truly terrible black and white horror movie in college at a friend's uncle's house with a bunch of friends as actors. We stole all the food from the dining hall on Friday and then drove down and shot Saturday, Sunday for like 48 hours straight. I loved it. It was just everything I wanted to do. And the most fun I'd ever had doing, work, it's labor. And so I moved out west. I moved to San Francisco because I think I had, like everyone, these preconceived notions of LA. And I was like, I don't want to live there. It sounds fake and terrible. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And I wrote WikiHow in San Francisco, and I made some music videos with some friends, and I worked on a documentary while I was there. And eventually I just said, look, I've got this job that I can work from home. I think I hate LA. I'd never been. I just thought I did for some reason. Like, let's give it 6 months while I have a paycheck and just see what happens. And the minute I got there, all those preconceived notions, or most of them, were blown away. And I got on real film sets, like full on, film sets. It helped. The first show I ever shot was shot where they shot The Office.
Oh, nice.
The production office was Dunder Mifflin, was where I went into work every day, which was one of those very surreal, but very like, call your parents immediately. And it's like, look, I'm in Hollywood. And I think I just loved it so much that it made it possible to kind of get through the early up and downs. And I was writing all the time and knew that's, I think, what I was best at. It's also the thing that doesn't cost you any money. Especially now, there's free screenwriting software. You can just do it and have a finished product. And I moved eventually into a YouTube channel called What's Up Moms. It was a moms and babies focused, like parenting focused YouTube channel. First thing I ever filmed was baby massages, which was the most surreal. Like me with a giant camera watching a little baby, like get like a tiny little like back of the shoulder massage. And it was, like an early, it was like soothe your baby kind of thing. But there was LA has baby masseuse experts that did a video. But you do re-examine a lot of life choices when you're pointing like a $30,000 camera down at a baby.
Right.
getting its shoulders worked out. So I got a story that's not worth the time it would take to tell it, but my car got totaled while I was parked, so I was fine. And one of the producers there was like, "Oh, you're on my way to work. I'll bring you in. I'll pick you up on the way until we figure out your car damage." And as we were going, I find out that she had a pitch at Netflix and they wanted 5 show ideas. So she goes down the show ideas and I'm kind of giving her thoughts and notes. And she knew I wrote, so we went through it. And there was one of them in particular that I was like, oh, I actually have done all this. And it was a kids wilderness program show. There's a whole lot of, layers and whatever. It's a comedy. And so I'm like, I was a wilderness leader. That was my college job, was I led bike trips for teenagers through the wilderness. And I'm like, I have a lot to say about that. Like, I can give you some character ideas. I have some fun background stories. And again, this is the free work thing. For all 5 ideas, you need the story idea in 1 or 2 sentences, a synopsis, characters, and then a bunch of sample episodes just to get used to what the show's going to be. So I kind of helped tackle that. Like, here's some sample episodes based on stuff I've done. Here are some kids that will never be named that would make great TV characters. Unbelievable. And the show sold. And I didn't have any writing credits professionally, but she's like, I can bring you in as the writer's assistant.
Okay.
And for people who don't follow the industry, the writer's assistant is the gateway job into a television room. There's not a lot of pathways into the film and TV industry. Writer's assistant is one of the few surefire ones. Because a writer's assistant sits in the room and all the writers sit around a giant table, which is the part everyone knows, that table, which is funny and hilarious, and I think maybe my favorite place in the world. And the writer's assistant's the one on the laptop taking notes on everything. Every pitch, everything. They're when the script is being written in certain ways, you're writing the actual script. So it's an unbelievable job to just ingest great writing. Before COVID, we did live audience shows. And my first real chance was we were doing a live show and a joke was not working. The audience was clearly being forced to laugh. It wasn't very funny. And the showrunner turns around. It's like, who's got something better? Who's got it? And there was silence and I had something and I gave it. And she's like, all right, you go tell the actor. Like, me?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you go give it to him. Go, off you go. And I did, and it got a laugh and it was in the episode and it went on. And I was lucky. There is that pipeline to learn the skills and build up. And from that show, she gave me my first episode ever of TV. So I got to co-write that. And it's this show, Team Kaylee. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's what this wilderness show started as, and shows grow and change as they evolve. But she let me write an episode or co-write an episode. And that got me into the Writers Guild, got me half of that script payment because I co-wrote it.
Yeah.
And then the show gets canceled, as they do. And a writer on that show said, actually, I know a friend who's looking for another writer's assistant. You did an unbelievable job. She's a great showrunner. Do you want the job? Of course, I said yes. And then that was another unbelievable showrunner. And she took me to the next step. She's like, all right, you're good. You can do jokes. Clearly, you're pitching great jokes, and that's super valuable. On Thursday, I need 3 episode ideas. You're going to sit at the table, and you're going to pitch us 3 stories that you think should be episodes. And I got one of them in. And she's like, that's great. We're going to do that. And they put my name as a story by credit, and they got me a story by. And then the next season, some people get promoted, and she's like, I think you're ready. And she promotes me to staff writer, which is the bottom, the lowest rung of things. And in the meantime, again, I start my own production company, and I'm filming my own short films, and I'm helping other people film their short films. And TV shows are weird schedules. You might, you have to always be ready to get working when one drops or gets canceled or the episode order gets cut in half or something like that. And so I had all those kind of balls in the air, and I won't say we're totally caught up to now, but it's hard to say how linear it was to get to it. But yeah, I see a narrowing. It's like, the WikiHow version slowly has coalesced into something a little tighter and cleaner in the film side. But,
yeah. And when you were starting out, when you were graduating college, when you told your family, I want to be a screenwriter, what was the reception? How did people feel?
My family, my parents, my direct family, they're been unbelievably supportive. I wouldn't lie and say we all thought, okay, eventually maybe he'll go get his law degree or go to medical school or go and, give it a run and give it a shot. And I think part of that is the reality that it's a very tenuous career. And I
Yeah.
think my family isn't never been worried about me, but I think there's a real concern about, is this sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
And that concern is not without basis.
Yeah.
Um,
What is your answer?
I want to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried right now about the sustainability of it. Partially because of my own, partially because a lot of my friends, including older writers who have had careers for a very long time, are really getting nervous. It's bleak right
Mm-hmm.
now. Um, there's 42% less TV writing jobs this year than there were last year.
Wow.
So almost half of those jobs are gone. Film production across the board is gone. It's leaving LA significantly. There's a lot of reasons. We all know there was too much TV being made, frankly. Like the joke where somebody would say, I'm watching these 4 shows and you've never heard of any of them from
Yeah.
just 2 years ago is
Yeah.
real. And it wasn't sustainable economically for those companies. It's very clear. They've all had to cut back. They all shouldn't have chased perhaps as far
Yeah.
down the road as they did, but they did. We're living with the consequences of that. The strikes, I think, catalyzed that reckoning, but they didn't cause it. There was always a need to cut down on the amount of TV being made. It was just absurd.
Yeah.
And it wasn't sustainable. But a lot of people got jobs during that boom time, and now they don't have those jobs, and they're competing for a very small number of jobs. So that's cynical, like point number one. Number two is automation, which we talked
Mm-hmm.
about. Whether it works or not, companies are going to try to use automation, and people are going to not get jobs while that trial period is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Either that trial period fails and we realize, no, human created art is so much better, it's worth investing in, and the jobs start to come back, or it succeeds and there's just a smaller market. Obviously, I don't think human created art is ever going to go away. I
Right.
think it's a tool. I think the vast generation abilities have a lot of issues that haven't been resolved, and also they're environmentally and economically very expensive in ways that we are yet to really reckon with. And I think all that's going to mean human jobs are going to exist. Doesn't mean there's not going to be less of them. And I think coupled with a larger increase in the price of living, especially in cities,
Yeah.
a larger increase, a decrease in economic mobility, an increase in the ability to own a home or to start having assets that might give you some sort of foundation. One of my favorite movies of all time, Blue Ruin, the director and his wife mortgaged their house to make the movie. I'm not saying you should mortgage your house to make a movie,
Yeah.
but you can't do
But-
that unless you have a house. And I'm a little worried that all combined, the reality, the money that allows you to start developing a career, to live in a city where you're going to be exposed to lots of art and a lot of different artists and can sell your work down the line. The ability to have a job that pays your bills, but either kind of works your artistic muscles or gives you enough free time and flexibility to practice them on the side. Those jobs are going away. The cost of living doesn't seem like it's getting a lot lower right now.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how young artists in any medium whatsoever are going to be able to have that crucial 10-year period of development unless they have very wealthy parents or benefactors that are allowed to help them do that. I think I'm lucky to love what I do, which helps. I'm lucky to have a diverse enough skill set, and I think I'd recommend anybody who wants to do creative career, like, pick up as many of them as you can.
Mhm.
Even if it's like music production along with writing, like
Yeah.
anything to not be just reliant on one creative outlet to make your money. And love what you do. So if it is a hobby, you're not going to be broken down. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't wake up quite frequently in the middle of the night or in the morning debating what other avenues I have and when it's time to really start cultivating them, and how sustainable it is going forward. I think maybe that's all artists at all times have probably done that,
Maybe,
and maybe
yeah.
it's just I'm just living my version of that. But I would be hard pressed to go to just say to any single kid who's like, should you do a career in the arts? I'd be hard pressed not to really challenge them to make sure it's something they really, really want to
Mhm.
do and are willing to handle the the heartbreak and the hurt that's definitely going to be there on the way.
I think it's really brave to go into the arts, and because it is such like an unknown of what could happen. And we've seen that the arts are so important to our culture, to human connection, to like just what it means to be a person living right now,
totally,
you know?
and make sense of it. And really, I think that drew me to it, and I hope to do that with other people. That was my favorite thing about writing for the Disney Channel, was especially with the showrunner who's like, no, we're modeling difficult situations and difficult choices and answers for kids. And like, we're going to think about it. Like, and sometimes the funniest answer to a story is not the answer that we want to really think about. How do we handle life? But the idea that art has the ability to really catalyze change and wrap societal thoughts around something isn't going away, no matter what tech happens or changes to the economic structure.
No. I mean, to even get even more personal, I love television. Love.
Okay.
When I was a kid, it was hard for me to make friends, and I'm like the youngest in my family by 7 years. So I was like really like spent a lot of time alone.
They're different, but that's too big of an age gap.
Oh yeah,
as kids.
when
They're
you're
way
like
too different.
10 and 17, like there's nothing in common.
Species,
But I would just watch TV and I would put it on, and back then it was like just cable. It was just like whatever was on, right? I was like, someone else is watching this right now.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel so connected to other people.
Yeah.
But this actually kind of goes into something I wanted to talk about. We were talking right before. Now, I had that moment because I was like, we're all on channel 30.
Right.
Streaming has also really changed the game. How has that changed Hollywood? How has that changed your roles?
Yeah.
Like, now that streaming subscribers have surpassed cable subscribers, like how are those changes affecting jobs and roles?
A lot. I don't want to get started on why streaming is an awful business model. Everybody made a whole lot more money during cable. Everyone had a lot more choice. They were paying less at this point because how streaming has gone up.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Netflix is already starting to shorten their windows. Like, we're going to drop 3 episodes at once instead of 10, because dropping things from time to time and letting people watch them together week to week and build up a cultural resonance and have, organic marketing build up as they do it. What do you know? That's kind of great. That's how you get your White Lotuses and your Game of Thrones and these week to week shows that really capture the imagination. So all I'm saying could be irrelevant very shortly, as I think a lot of channels are starting to go back to an older model. Personally, it allowed the streaming was a boom. If we're going to make 10 episodes and drop them all at once in 1 week, we don't need 4 shows for the season. We need 100 shows for the season.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunity. As I said earlier, the hangover of that has been rough. It did allow, in a way that I hope we don't lose, an expansion of the types of stories being told. Streaming's big advantage, the thing that I hope we don't lose, and I think we're doing a good job balancing, as if I speak for all of Hollywood. With streaming, you're not going after how many people can I get around the TV at this one time. It's how do I have shows for this group of people and this group of people and that group of people. And so it allowed the perspectives that were viable to expand.
Yeah.
You could put shows on that might be smaller budget and maybe only, 500,000 people watch them. But there are 500,000 people who have never had a show related to their life come out before.
Yeah.
Like, that's an amazing thing. And I hope as we come back towards a more lucrative model that's maybe a little broader, we don't lose our recognition of that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to. Hollywood, I think, is trying to figure out, okay, we way overspent in the streaming network. A bunch of places are going out of business. 3 of the biggest players in Hollywood are tech companies. I consider Netflix a tech company first that makes entertainment, but Amazon and Apple are right on their heels. Disney, which used to be this vaunted thing, is considering shunting off its cable networks and so on and so forth. Everybody's trimming down. The question is, if you trim down, what do you trim to?
Right.
There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think in uncertainty, people are falling back on the bread and butter.
Yeah.
okay, what's got my best shot at getting a bunch
Yeah.
of viewers? Um, that said, I desperately miss everybody's watching the same show. Part of the reason I think I fell in love with TV was NBC's Thursday night lineup, The
Mhm.
Office, and My Name is Earl, and Community, and 30 Rock. And you'd show up at, for me, I'd show up at school the
Yeah.
next morning, Friday morning, and it was like, what'd you see? And
Yeah.
some people would run away because they hadn't caught it yet. They'd TiVoed it, or they had to
Yeah.
wait for the rerun.
Right.
And you just swap the jokes and swap the
Mhm.
stories. And then obviously Game of Thrones was one of the last times we ever had that.
Yeah.
I miss that feeling because I think that's where art is at its strongest.
I
Is
agree.
obviously streaming is not the only thing fragmenting attention spans. The social media landscape and I think general um, targeted content in smaller and smaller windows. I
Yep.
think it is maybe to blame or to celebrate if that's what certain people like. But again, that worries me about this current future for artists.
Right.
I don't think TV's going to go away, but I think it's changing very rapidly, and there's more and more people saying like, why make real TV when you can make vertical dramas, which are phone dramas, which there's big money and there's a lot of attempts to poach talent to do that kind of thing and to move people over.
We've actually talked to a few people who have said, like, right now, I have to pivot to social media. Like,
Yeah,
that is like where I go next. Like, have you ever felt that push? Like, I know
yeah,
even like when I scroll through TikTok, I'm seeing like 10-minute short films
yeah.
that are
Like,
beautiful and like
right.
really well done and like really creative. But have you felt like this is maybe where I need to go next to keep up?
Yeah,
Or
I have to an extent. I have some friends who have, and I've worked on some stuff that's been in that level. I've got some personal red flags that throw up there, especially thinking of longevity of career.
yeah,
I think right now, and look, my production company did something for one of these companies and did a drama, and it was the most hellish shoot we've ever had.
yeah,
I mean, the timing we were given to make something, the budget we were given to make something, but the demands on what we were making for that level were insane. I mean, to the point where I don't think we like mentally could have held up and done that for very long. I
yeah.
currently don't see I don't see the long-term career in those
Mm-hmm.
things because I don't yet really see how you're going to get paid in a way that you can actually have healthcare and pay your bills.
Yeah,
You have very little profit margin. You have very little ability to get paid. You have very little to no ownership once it's out in the world.
yeah,
The demand to never stop, the way to do it is to never stop. I mean, to really have a career, you just have to keep making things and making things and making things and
yeah,
there's no such thing as residuals. The like 0.1 or 0.3% of creators ever get paid at all. Very few make enough to have a living, especially in a major urban environment. And for most of them, you have to do all the ancillary stuff. You do your own bookkeeping,
mm-hmm.
you do your own marketing, you do your own development. You pay your own bills, you pay your own accountants. It's a lot of unpaid labor all of a sudden to
Right.
get your career up and going. And the expectation of unpaid labor, the expectation that, look, people are going to get free entertainment on Instagram, whether you like it or not,
Yeah,
is very different from a system where if you develop something, if you develop your art and you find a consumer and you find something, they're gonna have to pay for it down the line at some point.
right.
And good, you made something valuable. You should make a little bit of money. And
Yeah,
obviously, I'm a little
yeah,
biased
yeah,
in that,
yeah,
but and look, as I said, it's all if you love what you're doing, it's not free labor in some extent,
yeah,
and I love what I'm doing, and that's why it's fun to do
right.
stuff like that. But there's a line, and I don't know where it is. And you said we'd find it in an hour. So if you can help me, you
I
did promise
know.
me we'd get there.
So right now,
Mhm.
what are you working on? Like, do you
Yeah.
have a paid writing job right now?
Mhm.
And to your earlier point, like, where's the line? Like,
Yeah.
how are you feeling right now about your job, about how much you're making?
Yeah. Um, Lying if I said I felt great, but I do have a really good, steady paying writing job right now.
Mm-hmm.
I write copy for a consulting firm, and I ghostwrite a lot of their stuff. So I'm writing everything from articles for them to blog posts to some client work where I'm actually getting in the weeds of internal memos and
Cool.
proxy forums and some stuff that I really had to to put myself in night school real quickly to pick up the skills to write. And it's been a really eye-opening experience because I personally, I got to this point I'd been working for almost a decade when I became a staff writer. And I was sitting in my favorite place around the writer's room table, pitching jokes and writing stories for a living. And I'd go into the office and I had great people I worked with. And I'd be on set and my jokes made it to screen and they made it on TVs and kids watched them and friends who had kids were like, oh my God, they love Bunk. They saw. So I got in many ways everything I'd ever wanted out of a career. And then everything crumbled down as these are so likely to do. The writer's job disappeared and the strikes happened and the fires happened in LA. And so I think emotionally that was really tough. And emotionally it was really hard to go get a dry copywriting job. And I really struggled with it.
Yeah.
I was really struggling going back to bartending, feeling like, hey, I got here and then kind of through no fault of my own, the show got canceled and it fell apart. And it got canceled at a time where all the jobs disappeared, and that was the most I've ever considered hanging it up. At the same time, every single artist, I think, would look at themselves and be like, but what if it's like next week?
Yeah.
Like, what if you get that call? What if the next thing you write is the one that gets there? And I'm not going to lie, I willingly have some level of delusion. And I think most people doing it have to be a little delusional. I'm not saying I'm proud to say that, but I'm definitely a little delusional. But those delusions were challenged more than they ever have been in the past year and a half.
Yeah.
I still will sometimes be like, I hate to say this old kind of 90s, 2000s, but like, am I a sellout? But it's not a distinction worth having because you have to live to do this.
Right.
And I've found in a way that's blown me away, and I feel like such an idiot for ignoring it, knowing I'm going to have a certain paycheck at the end of the week, even if I'm giving up being able to write what I want all day long, has actually kind of freed me artistically in a way.
Okay. Yeah. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think having the pressure, like, okay, what I'm writing next has to get me a job. It has to sell in some way is a lot. That's a lot of pressure to put on what should be, I think, a very free-flowing creative process that, in my opinion, should be insulated from the market in some way. You shouldn't be thinking about the money first. You should think about the audience and what you want and what you want to write. And so I've now got this system and that corporate client has led to a couple other client opportunities and led to some other writing. I still have my editing where it's like, oh, I'll write my work for 2 to 3 hours in the morning. I'll take the dog for a walk. I'll have breakfast or lunch, whatever. And then I'll pay my bills all afternoon.
Yeah.
And what I'm paying my bills in is something I love doing, which is writing. It might not be the subject I love, but it's what I love. That said, freelance clients are just as finicky as others. There's the back of my mind still has that fear. They could have layoffs. Like they could run into some issue and fire all their clients. They could replace me with AI at any point. So that fear is still there. The sense of delusion still there. The eye on LinkedIn and like, oh, what jobs with salaries am I ready for? Am I capable of doing? And how do I need to maybe focus myself in those things? Is important. I have a very loving, very caring, very successful fiance that does support me and listens to me have these debates with myself and listens very well and is willing to entertain. Look, if I want to give it up, what does that look like? And if I need X more amount of months or years or hope or projects, then like, what does that look like? And let's figure it out together. And having that person figure it out together is pretty helpful beyond any of the money sort of things.
Definitely.
I personally am lucky to have this copywriting job. I'm lucky to have a script right now that is for the movie script that's further along than most have gotten, and has a lot of the right pieces starting to come in line.
That's really exciting.
It's exciting, but fool me once, shame on you. I've gotten things going and they've fallen apart, which I think is now healthier. It's like, no, if this falls apart, I'm still paying my rent.
Right.
I still got a job. I'm still able to save some money. I'm still able to have some food and enjoy life. And so I don't need this to like have to happen,
Mm-hmm.
which has been healthy. So
Yeah.
I think my initial reticence to jump into that, sellout job, as much as I say that ironically, truthfully, um, I think I found the brighter side of it in a way that's helped. My personal line, because that was kind of a question, like, what
Yeah.
is the line? Is my dream, the reason I did all of it, the reason I really got into it, accepting that college movie I made is and was to like see a feature film all the way through to the end,
Mm-hmm.
to write something that I believe in and raise the money and put it up on
Yeah.
screen. And I'd be hard pressed to fully, give it up
Mm-hmm.
without really making the best effort possible
Yeah.
to get that done.
And what's happening with your production company?
hmm We we've I'm very excited. My business partner Bennett Corden, we've known each other since we were assistants together. We made it an LLC just to do something by the books, one
Mm-hmm.
short film. We thought that would be it. An actor on that script's like, I actually want to make a short and I have the money. Will you produce it for me? And I edited it. My friend Bennett produced it. That ended up screening. That got into the Tribeca Film Festival last summer.
Cool.
Called Shut Up Jack. It's great. It's a comedy. And all of a sudden that started to open some doors, and we did a couple more shorts, and we got a grant through NPR to make our last one, to hopefully vaguely long-windedly bring it back.
Yeah.
I think the broader time, when I'm gonna know it's time to really hang it up and say maybe, okay, I do want to have a family.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to, and I don't want to feel like I'm stemming that family's growth because of a very personal passion and project, especially something like writing, where I can pull up my laptop no matter where I live, no
Yeah.
matter what I'm doing, and I can write a chapter or something. I think the point where that pressure, okay, there are things not related to my career that I really want and I value.
Mm-hmm.
The point where those pressures meet with like, am I even growing anymore? Can I even look back on the past 1, 2, 5 years and say, has there been progress?
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting closer or am I spinning my wheels? I think as those two things happen, if I start to feel really stagnant and not enjoying it, and the non-professional parts of my life grow every month, every year, the older I get, and
Yeah.
the more I'm meeting my person, I have a hunch that'll start to push some other options. Hopefully by then it's irrelevant, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'm already
Yeah.
taken off and it doesn't matter as much. But it weighs it
Yeah.
weighs on you, and it's a constant reevaluation.
Yeah. I want to ask you personally, where do you put finances in the list of stressors in your life?
Number one,
Number one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wish it wasn't true. I think the rosy side of that for me is I'm lucky. I have a great partner.
Mhm.
I've got just a great dog, like the best dog. I know everyone says they have the best dog, but I obviously
What kind of
have
dog?
the best dog, an Australian Shepherd
Ugh.
named Luna.
Uh,
But she's obviously the best.
yeah.
Not that that matters. I live in a beautiful city. We live walking distance from the beach. I have a family that loves me. I love my work. I'm proud of my work. I actually am writing at the level I want to be writing.
Yeah.
I feel a level of mastery. Not done, but I feel a level of command of, I think, my form that feels really great. And I wish, in the most Zen Buddhist version of me,
Yeah.
that like the material concerns wouldn't matter. I really do.
Yeah.
But they do.
Yeah.
Dog food costs money.
Right.
And
Right.
she deserves good food.
Yeah.
And planning for the future. And it requires thinking about it. And I think because they're uncertain, because so much of it is hope
Mm-hmm.
of a payday down the line here, or hope that this client who's been great for me doesn't all of a sudden drop out for something
Right.
out of my control. Um, you said it, money connects us all. And I think it's foolish to think you can just do something purely for the love of it and don't
Mhm.
think about the money.
Yeah.
That's just not how life works.
Right.
Things cost money, and planning for your future is exponentially easier when you
Yeah.
have stable finances.
Yeah.
And so I think most other things in my life, I'm very happy. I'm very grateful for. And in many ways, I remind myself, if money is the thing I'm most stressed about, then I think I'm doing okay in life
Yeah, that's a
broadly.
great point.
I
That's such a
think
good point. Yeah.
I'm happy that I'm not stressing more about, do I have a friend I can trust? And does
Yeah.
my family, support me? And do I have a partner I love? And do I feel like I'm giving back to my people? Um, I'm happy to say like those things feel good.
Yeah.
But it has meant that the sole spotlight of stress is often on, are we sustainable
Yeah.
financially, and am I sustainable? And more importantly, are my finances going to in any way hinder all of those other spheres?
Yeah.
Are they going to make a family difficult? Are they going to make travel with my family difficult?
Yeah.
Um, so because I think finances maybe threaten those other spheres, I like, you know, is taking a 9 to 5 job going to mean I can't write the next great movie or the next great short story I want to write because I just won't have the time? It's hard for me not to maybe lump all of my big stresses in that ball of financial
Yeah.
instability.
Even with everything, you've been able to write these articles that help people out. You have had writing credits. You've been on a long running series. If you look back on when you were graduating school, maybe even first moving to LA, do you feel like you've made it? If you were talking to like that version of yourself, or do you not feel that way yet?
I That's a great question and something I should reflect on more. I 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd be overjoyed to have the problems I have now. I'd be like, wait a minute, my problems are that like I don't know if I'm getting paid on a movie that a production company likes right now. Like, great, sign me up. They like my movie.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, like I'm on strike for the Writers Guild. I'm like, you're in the Writers Guild? Like, congratulations. And I
Yeah.
remind myself that a lot. Made it such a crazy term.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I don't ever want to be stagnant. And I think the fear of that is always tough. I think I had two dreams coming out of college wanting to do this. One of them, the big one, which I don't think I'll ever fulfill, and I don't think anyone ever has or supposed to, is I really want to make and produce something, whether it's a film or a short story
Hmm.
or even a short that to me, I think really, really resonates with people in a way that creates conversation. I know it's a very broad way of saying, like,
Yeah.
I want to make one of those, just one of those things that it just stands on its own and it moves well past
Yeah.
me. It really has nothing to do with me once it's out in the world. And I think that's what all great art does. It
Yeah.
transcends its artist, and it just, everyone who encounters it has a different relationship, and it's got enough humanity there to inspire that.
Right.
I think I'll have that goal until the day I die, and I want to continue that.
Yeah.
So I haven't made it in the sense that I don't think anything I've made is accomplished that. My other goal was just to pay my bills, be a living writer, a
Yeah.
living working writer. And in that sense, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I have. I also think in college, and I'm sure we all did, you're like, oh, I'll be a starving artist. That sounds awesome. And then you're actually really hungry and you're like, this is not awesome. I was wrong about this. When I had a dining hall, this was a great dream.
Yeah.
This was a very
Yeah.
fine dream. Um, the dissolution of the starving artist dream has been one of the more important, I think, psychological shifts
Yeah.
I've made in my life. Um, but I think I have a lot that young Nicholas would be proud of,
Yeah.
and that I am currently proud of. I think I get lost in the weeds sometimes, and you want a little bit more, and you
Hmm.
want something else to happen. It's hard to reflect on being proud of it, but I think I can say I've taken steps I want to take, and I'm proud of how I got here and where I am at the moment.
Thank you, Nick, so much for being
Oh, you're
here.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open and talking about something that I know obviously people in your field can relate to, but I think people across the board who are feeling a little nervous, a little um, wondering where they're going next and what's happening. I think a lot of people can relate to a lot of the things that you shared. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome, and thanks for making this platform and like chance to share it.
Yeah.
It helps to talk about it actually, so I appreciate it, and I hope it helps some people see that too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.